I'll quickly introduce myself and then ask Audrey and Jeremy to introduce themselves. I'm Andrew Bolus. I'm a former CMO. Currently, I'm a business growth consultant. I help companies leverage LinkedIn and AI tools to attract new customers in a cost-effective way. I'm based in the US, out of Chicago. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and at this point, host one of these audio events probably every 2 weeks or so. Audrey, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. So I'm Audrey, I'm the founder of Close with Copy. So I run a hybrid human AI copywriting consultancy where we create smarter solutions to help brands to scale with speed. My passion is in really leveraging strategy, right? And then thinking of how do you use AI to execute on those strategies to find smarter ways to solve problems. And that's something I'm super passionate about. So really excited to be here with you guys today.
Thank you, Audrey. And Jeremy, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to have you here. Yeah, so Jeremy, I'm a former head of sales. I've been head of sales for 3 years in a software company. And actually, I just recently launched my own activity, my own business. I named it The Forge. And the goal is to share as much as knowledge as I can in sales and AI, basically really leveraging AI to make you grow as your business.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. And with that, we'll now dive into our event's main topic, AI-powered marketing and sales from awareness to conversion. Audrey will cover awareness. I'll then cover lead generation, and Jeremy will cover conversion or generating sales at the end. This will be conversational between the three of us. And then if you have comments or questions, just note them down because there is a Q&A portion at the end of the event. So with that, we'll start with awareness and top of funnel. So Audrey, how would you describe tofu or top of funnel?
Yeah, so tofu is actually my favorite part of the funnel. Top of funnel content is where you actually try to attract eyeballs, right? And focus on maximum visibility. Here you want to get traffic to your page. And you think of it, if you're creating a funnel, this is where you want the most traffic to come in. And then as you go mid and bottom, your traffic will kind of streamline and you finally convert. But right at the start, the only goal that you have is to attract as many eyeballs as possible, get people in and get people interested.
Yeah, I love that, Audrey. And I think I think tofu too is probably what a lot of people think of like marketing is by default. They think of a company or someone creating a lot of awareness around their product or what they do.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that one thing that most people might not realize is that when I say attracting the audience, I'm not saying attracting everyone because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're attracting the right audience. So the messaging you're putting out there needs to appeal to the right people because you want them to convert by the end of the funnel.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So Audrey, how do you develop a strategy for top of funnel?
Okay, I know this is an AI powered chat, right? But before AI, highly recommend that you think about a higher level strategy. This will give you all the inputs you need to execute with speed. Without strategy, AI content is just content. You're not going to be able to attract the right audience for whatever you want to sell, which means that you need to first think of who is your audience, who is the product, what are your USPs, what are your key pillars, what is your one key message, right? And then what are your channels of execution? So I'll take myself as an example. I launched my consultancy this year and I wanted to get top of funnel visibility, which was why I started using LinkedIn just 5 months ago. I managed to grow from 0 to 10K because I was very strategic about my top of funnel approach. So if I am the product and LinkedIn is my marketing channel, what kind of content do I need to put out to attract the right kind of audience? So for me, if I'm the product, my product would be a hybrid human AI copywriting solution. And then the next steps would be, what are the 3 key pillars I want to talk about, right? And that would be AI, growth, and copywriting. I would not recommend you to go more than 3 because that would usually dilute the message. So if you are laser focused on, if you are the product, how do you sell yourself? Decide on 3 key themes you want to focus on. Then you create content around those themes, right? But they should all ladder up to the same key message. One thing that I often see for a lot of my clients is that they want to say everything, right? Because I know you created something that you're really proud of, but by talking about everything, you're talking about nothing, which is why you need to be super clear, super focused on your product, your 3 USPs or your 3 pillars, and then creating content around it that will attract the right audience.
Yeah, I think I want to highlight something you said, Audrey. I think you can apply this piece of advice in every step of the funnel and every time you want to use AI, actually. It's like you need to master what you're doing first. You need to understand it. You need to build your strategy. And then only after that, you will apply AI. And I think this is crucial. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight this, as you said it, Audrey.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jeremy. I think where it goes wrong is people think they can skip like the marketing basics or the strategy basics and go right to AI, and that AI will help make up for not really having a strategy, not really understanding maybe their market or what they're trying to say or do. So I think that's a great point. Audrey, if you have limited time and resources, where do you begin with top of funnel?
Yeah, so I understand that a lot of you guys, like myself, are new founders or solopreneurs or trying to start a business, right? And you might be a B2B or B2C. This is where you really need to focus, right? So if you have a limited budget and you have 24 hours a day, where do you focus your maximum efforts on? And that's where you need to find almost like your product or marketing channel fit. For myself, I initially started my journey on TikTok, thinking that TikTok would bring me quick and easy virality, thinking that it would bring me an audience that might be interested in AI, thinking that it would bring me conversions. Unfortunately, TikTok was not the right place for me. I was creating content and optimizing for it every single day for a month. And the growth there was okay, but it didn't convert because I wasn't bringing in the right kind of people. The audience on TikTok were people looking for 5-second hacks, right? And when I put the same quality content that I uploaded on TikTok, nobody cared about it. But when I put it on LinkedIn, people responded because they were on this channel for that kind of information. So knowing where your audience lives is as important as the message you want to share. So right now I'm taking my message and going to a channel where my audience lives, which is, for example, LinkedIn, right? And then if you think about, okay, now I have people coming in through LinkedIn, do I want to focus all my efforts here? Or do I want to create a secondary resource to support this? And that's when you start breaking things down into what is the ROI for each channel? What is the message that needs to be consistent throughout all the channels you picked? And what are the 3 key pillars that are going to resonate and are going to apply to each channel? So again, if you take a step back and you visualize a flow, it's your framework of what is your product, what are your 3 key themes, what is the channel that you are choosing to optimize for, and then how your content is going to be communicated on that channel, and how do you optimize that content for that channel. So that's when you go dive deeper into channel. Like for LinkedIn, what kind of formats work better? Does a GIF work better? Does a carousel work better? Does a text-only post work better? And it needs to be tailored for your audience. So then this requires a bit of experimentation and testing in order to achieve what I would quote unquote call virality.
Audrey, those are great points. And I think your example too of starting with one channel, trying it out and figuring out that some of, I guess the content maybe wasn't connecting on there or it wasn't the right channel for that content makes a lot of sense. I actually find that top of funnel tends to be the hardest sometimes because that's where you're experimenting a lot and you're trying to find where is your message going to resonate the most and where are the people that you're going after are spending their time and where they're going to be most accessible. So all of that makes sense. And I like your example too of starting with TikTok and then switching over to LinkedIn afterwards.
Yeah, and I think that many things that a lot of marketers tend to do is the one thing that we tend to do is we like objects, right? So if there is X instead of Twitter, and then we think that everyone's going to be there or there's going to be a more traffic there, right? My question would be, where is your audience? This the one key thing we need to remember. Where is your audience going to be? Where are they consuming your type of content? And where are they most likely to be in the zone where they're willing to take in your content, and convert. So these are things that I would seriously consider before optimizing for different channels. Even though you want visibility, you can focus on one, do it well, and then when you have the resources or system for scalability, then you consider adding other channels. I think that it would be a better way to scale actually.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then, Audrey, with building awareness and top of funnel, how do you start? How do you recommend either like individuals or companies get started?
Yeah, so I think now, okay, you have strategy, you have focus, right? Then the third part is about execution. So the one thing that I want you to take away from this entire conversation, if you don't remember anything, is this: it's not what you say about yourself, it's what other people want to know about you. A lot of brands tend to think that people are really interested to find out everything about them. But the truth is, unfortunately, it's not the case. And many of the times, we got to think from a client's, from the audience point of view, right? So, what does your audience care about? Why should they listen to you? And what is in it for them? It sounds really simple when I say in this manner, but if you look at a lot of marketing materials out there, a lot of it still revolves around what the brand has to offer. But what the brand really wants to offer does not equate to what your audience wants from you. So it's finding out how you align the brand's offer to what the client or the audience wants, and then creating content around that that will drive you visibility. So an example would be, again, back to the LinkedIn thing, right? Initially, if I wanted to, I could have posted about custom or bespoke tailored prompts, but I didn't do that because I was aiming for top of funnel visibility. So the strategy that I implemented was to answer the first question that is on everyone's mind, which is, what is the best AI copywriting tool out there? So this is a question that everybody has, but nobody's answering because it will take a lot of work and effort to figure out what is the best AI tool out there, right? But you see something like that, right? Because it's a question that everyone has that nobody's answering. If you do that, it's most likely going to drive you visibility and awareness, and you're going to attract the profile of people who might become your target audience, people who are interested in copywriting tools, people who are interested in AI, people who are interested in prompts, right? So now I'm bringing the right audience to my profile without selling anything at all. I'm just showing you these are the top 10 tools I explored, and I think 1 out of 10 is great for XYZ. So this is a strategy that you can use by answering questions that other people have, by answering and giving them a value, right? You can draw traffic and awareness to your site without having to sell your own services at all.
I remember this series, Audrey, it was awesome. And I can relate when you said that you have to put yourself in the customer, the target shoes, as it's exactly the same logic in sales. And it has to be about them, not about you. And this is the most common mistake in both marketing and sales, I think. So yeah, this is very important. So yeah, I wanted also to highlight this.
Thank you, Jeremy. And yeah, I think, Audrey, that's a great example. It's almost like you thought of what conversation a lot of copywriters or content writers are having in their mind about AI, and it was like what tool to use, and then you did the sort of research, tried out the tools, and then offered them a solution. So I really like that example. So Audrey, how do you add AI to your workflow now that you have the strategy figured out, you've done some execution? How do you then incorporate AI into your workflow?
This is the beautiful part of whatever I'm doing. So I think you guys can hear the excitement in my voice because I like solving problems, right? So you have your strategy, you have your channel, you want to execute, right? How do you do that in a much smarter way, right? So you can use AI to do so in different ways. The first way is to actually build a content matrix to brainstorm ideas. For example, I will prompt ChatGPT and prime it by telling it my role, my audience, my company, the goal of my LinkedIn, who I want to attract. And with that, I will give it a series of instructions to create a content matrix for me. And in this case, I'm not giving it the ability to just give me 100 different ideas. I want to be smart about how I prompt for content. So what I do is I take a look at the top performing posts of other creators who are in a similar space, and I figure out that are working. And then I work backwards to think, okay, if X, Y, and Z are working, I want them in my content cal. So now with ChatGPT, I'm giving it a role, a context, the audience, and also giving it a framework in which I want it to build my content matrix, which means that the quality of content that it delivers is beautiful, because now it's not just spitting out random ideas, right? But it's optimizing for performance and conversions based on the inputs I've given it for top performing posts. And this can be done not just for idea generation, it can be done even for hooks. For example, if you have LinkedIn creators that you love, what you can do is also look at what kind of hooks they are using. For example, 5 ways I 10 times my sales this year using AI, something like that, right? So that format will be like X in Y time. That is one kind of format. Or you wouldn't believe this. That is another kind of hook, right? So what you can do is basically compile a list of hooks that you like. And then again, when you prompt ChatGPT, prime it first with your profile, your background, your audience, the type of content you want to create, then feed it the kind of hooks that you want it to create. And now you get ChatGPT to create the hooks based on the top performing kind of frameworks, plus it's tailored to your content for your audience. And with that, you can accelerate the process of content creation and optimize things for virality instead of just hoping and praying that it works. So I believe in optimizing for growth, which means that everything you do is an experiment. You need to track, you need to learn, and then you need to test, and then you need to iterate. If you can consistently do this, you can basically figure out how to crack a channel and how to scale with speed.
I see.
Yeah, I really like that example, Audrey, and I like how to you've systemized it or almost have it as like a repeatable process in a system that you can do and go back and look at what's performing well, what's not, and use that as insights to help you come up with the next piece of content or the next activity you're going to do.
You're not
Yeah.
guessing anything anymore.
Yeah, so everything I do, right? And I think this doesn't have to only apply to LinkedIn, right? When you are using AI, if you have the right strategy and the right frameworks and you're optimizing for it, then there's a much higher chance that you can achieve success using AI content. And maybe one last tip that I would share here before we move on is that if you have the ChatGPT phone app, it's really handy when you have ideas. It has a speech to text kind of function. So you can just press the record button and get it to create a transcript for you, and then give it a prompt to quickly create another kind of content that you can repurpose elsewhere. So these are just quick hacks. If you experiment and play around with the tools, you'll find lots of handy little tricks that you can use. Super cool. I think right now it would be cool if Andrew, you could share with us, right? What do you think of Mofu content and what on earth is Mofu?
Sure. So Mofu is the middle of the funnel, and that's where you convert awareness and attention you're getting into leads. Leads are people who are interested in you, your product, or your service, and either share their contact details or in some way identify themselves. So, for example, even when you post on LinkedIn and someone leaves a comment on your post, either asking questions or expressing interest, if they are the type of person you're targeting with your product and service, you could technically consider them a lead, because now you can follow up with them if you wanted to, or you could share a resource with them or something like that to move them further along in the funnel.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mofu is, as much as tofu is fun, right? Mofu is where you really get to educate them and you convert that kind of attention into something that's a bit more tangible. So maybe a question for you would be like, what are your favorite Mofu tactics?
Sure. So there's three of them that I really like, and they work pretty much for every company and most industries. One is lead magnets. So that's giving away a premium guide or resource for free in exchange for usually an email opt-in, but it can also be in exchange for something else. But it's, again, you're getting that person to commit somehow. So that's a lead magnet. 2 are virtual events, and that's where you get access to an event with expert speakers that requires some kind of registration or sign up to attend the event. And then the third one is newsletters. So getting access to industry insights, trends, news recaps in your inbox for free. And that's usually in exchange for an email opt-in. Newsletters are one that's very popular right now with a lot of AI creators, and a lot of them actually use that to build their lists and things like that.
Yeah, I think for myself, what I really like lead magnets, I think it's almost like getting the right audience to your platform and getting them to almost raise their hand to say, hey, I'm interested in your content, and almost the next step, your services. So that's something that I highly encourage listeners to try. And LinkedIn is a great channel for lead magnets. You can either build a landing page for it or just have it as a post and then collect customer information in order to then form a relationship and eventually perhaps convert them. Cool. Jérémy, quick question for you. Out of the
Sure.
3, right, do you have any that you prefer?
I
Lead
just
magnet.
started my, yeah, I obviously I love lead magnet, but I just started my newsletter. So I would answer newsletter. As Andrew said, it's like a premium channel and you only have very interested people in this. So yeah, this is very valuable. And from there, you can dive deeper in knowing your audience first, asking questions. They will answer you more easily, I think. And also you can push more premium content and try a bit, see what works before spreading larger in the tofu part of the funnel. Yeah, I the newsletter right now, but obviously lead magnet are awesome.
Super cool. And for those of you who are not signed up to Jérémy and Andrew's newsletters, now is the time. Okay, super cool. How about Andrew? So how do you use AI to help with lead magnets?
Sure. So with lead magnets, the topic and having an attractive topic is often what is going to sell the lead magnet, or make it attractive enough for someone to be willing to give you their contact info or to raise their hand and say they want that resource. So I love using ChatGPT for topic ideation. Audrey covered some of this early on, but you can basically go in there, say, I offer X to this type of target audience. What are some trends or what are some common pain points do these people have? You'll start getting ideas from ChatGPT, and from there you can then start asking it for, you can tell it like, I'm creating a lead magnet, suggest some topic ideas for, let's say, an ebook that would be relevant and attractive to that audience. So topic ideation is the first use case. I like to then also use ChatGPT for outlining and potentially writing the lead magnet. So once you have the topic, you can ask it for an outline. You could tell it like the length you want, obviously the format, and you can specify the direction or the structure or the flow of the lead magnet. It'll start by creating the outline, and then you can obviously ask it to write the lead magnet. What's great about that is it saves a lot of time. Even if you then have to take that content and edit it a bit, you'll still probably get 60 or 70% there. The third thing with lead magnets is I have been using Claude more. I think it's only available right now in the US and UK, but you can access it with a proxy. And I have found that Claude, just out of the box, creates more conversational text that sounds more human. So if you're also having a tough time with ChatGPT generating kind of conversational sounding text, I'd encourage you to try Claude. Claude is also, I think, a lot better at feeding it long PDFs or existing content and having it repurpose that content into a different format. And then the other couple of things I'll quickly cover is using ChatGPT to write the landing page copy or even promo social media posts to promote that lead magnet. I found ChatGPT to be pretty good at that as well.
I can confirm, I think Claude is a bit better in copywriting. It sounds less robotic. So yeah, you have to choose your AI when you want to do this or that, I think.
I haven't personally tested it yet, but when I do, you will see a carousel from me. Super cool. Okay, now for Andrew, right? How do you use AI to help with virtual events?
Sure. So again, I'd use ChatGPT for topic ideation. So I'd ask in this industry or for this audience, what are some trending topics? I'd start getting suggestions there. I could even start looking at what news is coming up, what people are concerned about in that industry, and use that to come up with a trendy event topic that I know if someone from that industry sees, they'll be very curious to sign up. I've also used ChatGPT to ask for speaker suggestions where, so I used to work in the supply chain tech industry where you could ask it, what are some thought leaders in the supply chain technology space that also do a lot of speaking engagements, and it'll actually suggest names that you could even ask it what events do those people speak in, and it'll tell you. And then from there, if you wanted to reach out to them, you can actually do that because now you have context. You can say, I saw you spoke at those events. We're planning an event. Would love to have you speak. You can obviously then use ChatGPT also to create the event registration page copy. You can even use it for the event content and script outline, and then to create social media posts to promote your event.
And Andrew, do you find that it hallucinates when you ask it for speaker suggestions, or was it pretty accurate?
It does. It can hallucinate. The speaker suggestions I find only works if it's an established industry. Something like supply chain technology or supply chain management technology has been around for a while, and there is a lot of conferences in that space. So when I've asked it, I found like I've actually gotten good responses, even names I've recognized. But I imagine if you're trying to ask it, for example, for thought leaders in the AI space or in ChatGPT or something that's more recent, it might hallucinate a bit or give you like responses that are not that good.
Interesting. All right.
And
Yeah,
Andrew,
Jeremy?
did you use ChatGPT to brainstorm and it ended up with this topic for this event?
So no, so in that case, so that was like an older, so in this case, I used that industry because I'm already familiar with it and because I worked at a company for 3.5 years that was within that industry. So I didn't end up doing that event, but the reason I used it because it's just I already knew the industry, I knew the speakers, and I knew too like what a quality topic would be. So it was just more for testing, can ChatGPT actually do this well? And because I'm already familiar with the industry, I saw that the output was like really good. So in that case, I haven't, but I can definitely see it. I see this also working well if you're helping a client in an industry that you're not familiar with, where you just don't want to spend a ton of time learning the industry, is just to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. And maybe one last question for you. So you said you have a newsletter, right? How do you use AI to help create your newsletters?
Sure. So my newsletter typically is a combination of AI news headlines, tips, and tools for AI. So I've actually had success with using Bard to just get like the latest industry news headlines. So when I've asked it, what are the top 10 or 20 AI news headlines in the past week? What I've seen from Bard is actually pretty good, where it'll give you the headline, it'll even give you like a 2, 3 sentence summary, which is what I focus on in my newsletter, just like the headlines and typically just a link to the news article. And then the other use case for newsletters is using ChatGPT to write social media posts that promote the newsletter. I'm just starting to do this too, where so I have the newsletter, but I have a version of it that goes into a carousel. So I'm starting to play around with creating sort of like a second version that's a LinkedIn post that just covers the newsletter.
Jeremy, are you using AI currently with your newsletter?
Yeah, of course, I'm trying to at least. I use it mostly in as an assistant in my writing, doing crafting drafts, and then I'm using this draft to refine it and push the final thing with my own touch, personal touch. I will always advise you guys to refine the results. So yeah, I'm doing this.
Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and transition into bottom of funnel. So, Jeremy, what is the bottom of funnel and how would you describe it?
Yeah, so if you followed Andrew's and Audrey's previous advice, you will end up with leads actually, and the goal of the bottom funnel content is to convert them into customers. So yeah, you want to convince these prospects to make the purchase decision. They are aware they have a problem. They are aware you are a possible solution for it, and you want to convince that you are the best one. So this is the goal. They are well educated, so you don't need to educate them. You just have to convince them at this point.
Yeah, and as a conversion copywriter, that here is, remember when you write for bottom of funnel messaging, always think about, again, what's in it for your audience. Write about the benefits, not the features, and what is the value that you can add. And I think that's going to help your message to become a lot stronger.
Obviously, yeah, 100%.
And Jérémy, what should you keep in mind when it comes to bottom of funnel content?
Yeah, it's about convert this lead. So you have to handle objections. You have to include this in your copy to remove this objection from their mind. You have to reinforce trust because they might have seen you, but they probably don't trust you yet. So you have to reinforce this. And this is also an opportunity for you to upsell, actually. If a prospect is able to buy this product or this service from you, it could probably buy more. It's an opportunity to try at least.
Yeah, those are great points, and I like how much do they echo. Like even when I'm thinking about buying something, usually I'm going through my mind through those things. So the fact that you're also handling them in the content makes a lot of sense. So then, Jérémy, do you have any tips to share about bottom of funnel?
Yeah, actually, this is the perfect type of content to use psychological biases. This is a moment to use scarcity and urgency, for example. This kind of content will mostly appear in landing page where the prospects are able to buy your product or service. So it's the right moment to say, okay, this offer is only available for 2 days. And if you don't buy it now, you will miss it. So I think this is the kind of psychological biases you should use. You should also push some social proof, seeing other people buying what you are about to buy. Always reinforce your feeling about it. And yeah, everything you can use, authority bias, anchoring. And I think there is around 10 of this, so I won't list them, all of them here, but you get the idea.
I think one thing that I found really useful was prompting ChatGPT with these kinds of psychological principles, right? And then getting it to provide copy options. But one thing would be to not have too many in a single paragraph. Otherwise, it seems really, really aggressive. So I try prompting it with 1 or 2. I think that's a sweet spot for me.
Yeah, exactly. You have to choose and see the best for your offer. I think social proof and scarcity are a good call in any cases. For the others, you have to apply it to your own context, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jérémy. And I know with scarcity and urgency specifically, you're trying to answer that question of like, why now? Like, why do I need to take action now as someone who is potentially considering buying this product? So if you can't, so you have to answer that for someone to then take the action of committing to a purchase or moving further along.
Yeah, exactly. We want to convert them, so we want to put a little pressure on them, gently, but still.
So Jérémy, with bottom of funnel and trying to convert the leads into buyers and customers, how do you start? Where do you go as far as execution?
Yeah, so as I mentioned just earlier, most of this copy will appear on landing pages. It would also be used on email marketing, but I will describe it a little later. So what kind of content can you use? You can make some demo of your product if you are selling a product. Adding some customer testimonial, I think at this point is good, like using the social proof bias. Maybe case studies also to show your product or service in action. It would be helpful. FAQs, like answering question, like it's like removing the objection by answering the question before they ask this question for themselves. So yeah, guarantees could be also a good way to create this kind of content. Money back guarantee. If you are not satisfied, you will get your money back, basically. And I think it's that's all you can add in your landing page, in your copy. And once you have targeted some people, you have put their email address, for example, for abandoned cart, if they're adding a product in the cart and they're abandoning them down the road, you can still send them an email and remind them they have added this item, and also push an additional bonus in the offer if they want to confirm it right now. Yeah, you can leverage the landing page and the marketing email with this kind of content.
Yeah, I also find that sometimes we can mix things up, right? So if you add like a customer testimonial beside your call to action, or a money back guarantee beside your CTA, it could also help to actually increase conversion rates by a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I really like the e-commerce example because I think e-commerce, it's very competitive. If someone doesn't buy from your store, they can go to just another store and buy it. There's also price competition. So I think looking at like how e-commerce does this, especially with that abandoned cart example, I think that's a great one. And that's something a lot of other businesses can benefit from. So
Yeah,
Jeremy,
you can
go
you
ahead.
can replicate this move on other kind of product you want to sell, even if it's a service, actually, because if you can track the email and you can target these abandoned prospect who abandoned the process, and still make them, as I said, a bonus offer. Okay, you wanted to buy X, you abandoned it, but you can now have a special offer because you hesitated with X, and as a bonus Y. And I think it will improve the conversion rate.
Yeah, I really like that example, and I've found that for a lot of service providers or even companies trying to sell something sometimes more higher end, that's usually low hanging fruit where someone just doesn't go all the way through with the purchase, but they don't have a system or a process in place to re-engage them or try to incentivize them to actually go through with the full purchase. So I really like that example.
Exactly.
So Jeremy, how do you use AI to help with bottom of funnel content?
Yeah, so basically, I will take the same piece of advice as you guys, using ChatGPT for content ideas, brainstorming, and also drafting, as I said just previously with my own newsletter. So you can basically brainstorm, put all the inputs you will gather from Tofu and Mofu content, all the data you will be able to gather from it, and feed ChatGPT with it to ask questions on what would be a good Bofu content. For example, you can also add your ICPs. We didn't speak about this a lot, but as you have to know your audience and your customers, you can cross real data with ICPs and get some good results, I think. I would also try to use Claude, as we said before, for email crafting, creation, and landing page drafts. Actually, you can use it for this. And you can then move forward to the most important part of it, like crafting CTAs, using Claude or ChatGPT to craft CTAs to convert this. And yeah, also to have multiple options and do A/B testing. I think it's important in this kind of step in the funnel to have data again, and to have A/B testing on this CTA versus another one, and to see what's performing the best.
Yeah, and maybe to Jeremy's point about A/B testing, right? One thing I could add here is sometimes you can think of it as what are different messages that could appeal to my audience. So start with the message. Don't think about the copy. Just think about different message angles. And then with the different message angles, then you can get ChatGPT to create 3 different headlines for this angle or 3 different call to action for this angle. And then you can test it. So get it to help you with the thinking process as well as the creation. I think that would be the ultimate use of AI in your workflow.
Absolutely. And maybe one final use of AI I could add in the Bofu part of the funnel it might not be possible for every businesses, but I think in some cases, and maybe in e-commerce, as we were talking about just earlier, adding a chatbot in the landing page or the final step might be helpful to answer the final objections. Like you have this pop-up coming in and sending you a personalized message on what you are actually looking, reading, and want to buy. That might be a super use of AI in some cases.
Yeah, I really like that example, Jeremy, and I know there are a lot of I know there's different like ways now to easily build one of these bots where feed it some of the existing materials, scripts you have, other content you have, and the bot can do a pretty good job of like being
Yeah,
interactive and
yeah,
communicating.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can feed it with your basically your product or service data, and the bot will be your best person actually.
Yeah, I really like that example. So thank you for covering the bottom of funnel, Jeremy. So before we open it up for discussion and attendee Q&A, Audrey, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think at the end of the day, right, again, this brings us back to the starting point. AI content without strategy does not work. I would actually say that with actually content without strategy doesn't work, but AI content without strategy is even worse. I think if you can really start thinking about your strategy first, then thinking about how you use AI to execute it, that's when you find a really beautiful hybrid kind of framework that is really effective. So I encourage you to think about it from this kind of perspective.
Yeah, I love that, Audrey. Thank you for adding that. And then, Jeremy, same question to you. Anything else you'd like to share before we open up the discussion for comments and questions?
Yeah, I just want to confirm what Audrey said, and you have to understand and master what you want to do before adding any AI to any AI tool, whatever your goal, whatever your business, and whatever everything. Any AI tool will always be your super assistant, and as an assistant, it won't do the work for you. It will assist you doing the work. So you are the expert, and yeah, you can leverage this super powerful tool to accelerate, to delete, to erase the repetitive tasks, but at the end you still have to work a bit.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think to both of those points, AI will not make up for you skipping the basics, whether it's with marketing, sales, like if you don't do the strategy work, if you don't understand the audience, and if you don't actually have a good product or a good offer, AI is not necessarily going to make up for that.